Recording. Hello, people. Fanny Anzai interviews. I'm Fanny Anzai, your host, and today we have here Mario Balaban. He is the Brazilian in the Project Veritas. Mario, thank you very much for coming, and please introduce yourself to my audience.
Hi, Fanny. Thank you so much for having me. I am the media relations manager at Project Veritas. I've been here for about a year and a half, working with James O'Keefe in New York. We're based in New York in the United States. And, for those who are not familiar with Project Veritas, we're an undercover investigative journalistic organization, nonprofit, exposing fraud, corruption, waste, abuse in private and public institutions. That's our mission. So it's great to be on with you.
Thank you so much for coming in. It was a great introduction because what I have received since I mentioned I was going to interview you guys or some member of the project, and I don't think it has nothing to do about us being Brazilian, just for people to know that we don't know each other before, and just because after I published, I announced I was really happy to talk to you, to speak with you about all the exposition and Wall of Shame and much more about the Project Veritas. Some people online are trying to advise me, don't talk to those guys, those are the bad guys, sharing with me Wikipedia,
Yeah.
what the Wikipedia talk about you guys, and I don't understand. But I think the straw man on you guys is that you guys are undercover journalists, this journalism of guerrilla, and that somehow the espionage in that sense is bad. Is
So
that
so
what you guys are most attacked for?
so we are journalists. We're not spies because the difference between spies and journalists is that spies get information from people to keep it to themselves for intelligence. We get information to publish it for the public. The public gets the information that we get. So we don't spy on anybody. We investigate people. So that's a big distinction that we like to draw. But yes, I mean you mentioned Wikipedia and the attacks we get. I mean by the way, we're probably going to sue Wikipedia soon for their lies. Literally, we're already suing Twitter, and we're winning against the New York Times. For their New York Times is losing a lawsuit to us. So if you're worried, if you think that Project Veritas is bad, how come are we beating the New York Times in court? You should be worried about if you're reading the New York Times and you're relying on the New York Times for your news. I would be concerned about that. So we're winning lawsuits. We've never lost a lawsuit in our history in 10 years. We've won 8 out of 8 lawsuits and lost 0 so far. So they have nothing on us in court. So all they can do is make things up online and hope that it sticks. So I would hope people actually, before judging what we do, actually go and watch our videos and read what we've done in our and like not from the New York Times, obviously, but on our website and our YouTube page, and then find whatever criticism you have, be able to prove it instead of just relying on sources that you think are reliable. Obviously, we know Wikipedia literally says, do not cite our work. Our work is not reliable. Wikipedia has a page saying we're not a reliable source. So if you're citing Wikipedia, you're clearly not using the proper sources.
Yeah, I actually tried to advise back saying, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm the innocent here, believing in, I'm not the one believing on what Wikipedia says. And there was a lot of silly assumptions of, oh, you think you're going to be friends with those guys or work with. And it's like, look, I'm doing the same thing I do with everybody I bring to my channel is to interview them for them to explore. We're going to explore together what is this straw man that a lot of people dislike them and attack them, and I believe that's why my channel in fact is a little bit of shadow banned as well, the same attack that Project Veritas and a lot of people that would have the unpopular opinions nowadays have been suffering.
You know,
And
I'm
it's
sorry.
still censorship, huh?
I was going to say, do you know where the term you just used, shadow ban, do you know where that term comes from? Do
No,
you know the origin of that term?
no.
So in 2018, uh, Project Veritas investigated Twitter, and our journalists undercover recorded Twitter employees saying how they shadow ban people. They are the ones who had that term. We recorded them saying that they shadow ban people, and since then, every time, like, people use shadow ban like a common term now, but that only became like knowledge. People only found out that there's a shadow ban because Project Veritas recorded Twitter. That is why that term exists.
That's great. Yeah, and everything that you guys have been exposed have been shadow banned, and that's why most of people don't know you guys by what you've done, but
Yeah.
more for what other people say. And that is one of our main topics. When I approached you guys, I was talking about how I have been talking about cancel culture for the last 2 years and trying to have civil disagreements because the echo chamber, the segregation, the cultural and political split, not just in the United States, but everywhere, uh, have been separated people enough to not even have what we call the golden bridge. I have interviewed Peter Boghossian that really tries to talk about how we can have those impossible conversations. And Cernovich about fake news and the mainstream media manipulating. Uh, Myself feeling like suffering from cancel culture, I wanted to approach, and I have tried to approach, talk to Project Veritas following you guys' work for the last years. Uh, I've seen James O'Keefe went to Tim Pool's, and Tim Pool is another guy that is very heavily shadow banned. You watch a video, then you try to find that video to share. It's almost impossible. You sometimes take 10 minutes to find a video to share with your friends or in the page. Sometimes you just give up, and that is one of their methods to
Yeah.
try to shut the other side or people that disagree with them. And this is not just a social uh, tool used in between people nowadays to lose friends just for having the wrong opinion, but more into this big tech corporation and political manipulation that we all kind of suspected this would exist at some point. And I started calling as you guys exposed the matrix. When you guys came with the CNN admitting they pushed into narratives and in propagandas that are even not real, I think you guys made us to wait a minute. Now there are evidence for that thing that sounded like a conspiracy before.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. That's one thing we like to do here. Obviously, we break stories that are never seen before. That's what we do. But what we like to do, like you said, is we like to confirm suspicions. Everyone suspected that CNN did things, but it's important. People are like, "Oh yeah, I know CNN did that." Like, I don't. No, you have to understand that you can't just, if you have the proof that CNN did something, it's not just your suspicions anymore. That is significant because they can't pretend anymore or play it off. They have to respond. They've actually ignored this story so far because they know they can't defend themselves. So but it is very important, even when you suspect things, and a lot of people agree that that CNN supported Biden and all this stuff. You need to have proof. You can't go to. I'm not saying you should go to court over this, but if you go to court, you can't win a case without proof. Even as obvious as this case might seem, you can't win without proof. So you need proof for everything if you want to make your case stronger. And to your other point, I'll also say for the collusion here between big tech and media, everything that, like you said, people don't see our stuff, and then they believe other people talking about us. It's because one, the media has a massive power to, create a narrative and push it out, but then they have their friends in big tech who make their stories the ones that matter, and then they push down everyone else's stories. So it's not only the power that the media has on TV and online and everything, but it's also the additional force that big tech brings to amplify that. So it's a massive body. It's an organism. It's a propaganda vortex of big tech, media, and then they have their allies in Hollywood. They have their allies in uh, universities. They have their NGOs. They have everything. They have a structure. So
Yeah.
get to break through a structure that big and that with a lot of money, uh, is a lot. So it is a daily battle here for sure.
Definitely. And for me, what is, I keep asking myself and sometimes bring this up on conversations is because apparently most of people would agree with us. They don't trust the long-term career politicians. They don't trust the big tech corporations, mainstream media. They believe there are a bunch of fake news, a bunch of manipulation of it, but they still rely on those.
Right.
When it comes to independent media or the CNN, there are people telling me Project Veritas is bad for exposing CNN now. I was like, why?
Right.
If even if you guys were working as spies and then bringing up the news that are important to everybody, would not be a good thing? Is
Right.
that not how we can get to hold those big guys that are protected by money or some type of a structural, whatever systemic thing that they created to keep them immune from even justice? Isn't that the way we can hold an account
Exactly.
through this undercover journalists? So I think you guys are the good guys. The 007 is still, they are the good guys, huh?
And the usual accusation is, oh, Project Veritas only goes after these people. They only go after this. We've exposed. People don't know how many Republicans we've exposed here in the U.S. too. We don't say we only go after Democrats. We don't even identify as conservative. We don't. We're journalists. Like if we see, I guarantee you, if we saw Republicans stealing ballots last year in the election, we would have put that video out. I guarantee you. We don't care, and people don't like. If here's what we've learned over the years is that if we were going after only Republicans and only Trump supporters here, the New York Times, CNN, they would love us. They would think we were the best thing ever. They don't like. It's not that they don't like what we do. They don't like who we expose. That's the difference. They don't like that
It's
they
their own
think
bias.
they
Yeah.
they think they're above everyone else. They didn't. How dare you investigate me? How dare you come near me? I'm too good to be investigated. So
Yeah.
that, it's not that they don't like what we do and our methods as much as they hate that we actually go after the real powerful people that are that the media used to be holding power to account, holding those in power accountable. Now the media has become the propaganda machine for people in power. It's reversed. Their whole job of the media was to expose people in power and to hold people in power accountable. Now they're become, cheerleaders and propagandists for people in power and money. The opposite of what they're supposed to be. And because we actually do what journalists always did, for hundreds of years, now they don't like that we're not part of their clique, and we will never be part of their.
Yeah. It is sad that unhappily people will be still turning on the free open TV more and listening to this more often than what is the independent exposing. But I like to bring back the conversation about how they are trying to, those are those methods, techniques they are trying to do to discredit James, to discredit Project Veritas, including a lot of lies that have been exposed. And that's why you guys have a huge wall of shame,
Yeah.
the wall of retraction. Tell me one thing, I'm always curious. You guys give the alpaca or just make the video coming to showing?
We give the alpacas. We've given it out. I've been in the the wall of shame is literally 5 steps away from me. I can't go there now, but it's very close to where I'm sitting. And yeah, I'm always near James when he's filming those. We have hundreds of them. We're over 340 now, and they just can't stop lying. We're getting more and more every day. It's like they never learn. I think they're starting to learn now because everyone knows that we're beating the New York Times in court, and they're starting to get worried. The media's worried now that we're actually going to start suing them. So they're being a little bit more careful when they talk about us, but they can't contain themselves. They can't help themselves. They just when they hear the word Project Veritas, there's so many emotions that go through their body, and they just can't control their emotions. So they have to write what comes in their mind, and they don't do research, and they don't do anything. They write up based off of emotions. So then we have to get the retractions off them.
Project Veritas is like a black hole, keeps swallowing more journalists that feel just emotion and like,
Oh, it's
pain.
a lot of emotions. There's a lot of emotions involved.
It is the time of today's. We are in this time of a lot of people like to quote Ben Shapiro for saying facts don't care about emotion. But
Right.
today we are in this time where a lot of people are relying more emotions
Yeah.
than facts, than evidence.
Right.
Now, the point, one thing I would like to leave it open here for the audience to think too is if you guys are exposing this, at least one little side of the matrix of CNN is manipulating, and a lot of people believe Fox does the same. We just need to find the evidence. Now, the question is, when did that start? Is that finished now because you guys exposed, or is that done, or we just gonna,
And are you talking about the CNN videos?
yeah.
So I mean, that Charlie Chester, yes, the videos we had on him are all out. There was 3 parts. Obviously, we're always continue. We never stop investigating. If we find out more, there's always going to be more. It's more about getting our whatever information we can, and making sure we have a story. But CNN and no one.
You guys have 3 videos with the Charlie Chester and he talking about how they manipulate, how they got Trump out.
Yeah. So the first video was about how they helped Biden and got Trump out, and that kind of stuff. The second video was how they manipulate COVID to scare people because that helps their cause. There's also stuff about how they were going to focus on climate change now and use that as their propaganda tool. There's a video about how they want to get Matt Gaetz out of office because Matt Gaetz is not good for the Democratic Party, so they're going to help the Democrats
A
get.
little bit on the racial narrative as well, Black Lives Matter. And that is what was the drop, huh? That caused you guys to be
Yeah, that
completely
was the
banned
last
from Twitter.
video. That was part 3, and the same day we launched that part 3 on Thursday last week, we finally got permanently banned from Twitter. Exactly.
And then comes more James suing more people.
And more people were getting sued. We filed the lawsuit against Twitter yet on Monday. We're filing a CNN lawsuit. We're already fighting New York Times. We're gonna sue Wikipedia at some point. I don't know how long from now, but it's probably happening soon.
Yeah.
We're gonna sue some people who impersonated us. We're gonna we
Do
have
you
a
have
lot
any
of
idea why Twitter would feel more threatened by the last video, or you think it was just a cascade? They were going to suspend James and Project Veritas anyways.
we
They
knew it was
just
a matter of
waited.
time. We knew it was a matter of time. We knew that they wanted to get us out. We just didn't know when or how. But the fact that they lied about James and said that he created fake accounts, that's shocking. I couldn't for
The
Twitter's.
excuse to suspend, the excuse they created to justify them suspending him was the most
They,
problematic.
and no, of all things, I thought Twitter was capable of anything, but they literally beat. I was shocked that they actually made something up like that. I was surprised they were able to come with such a ridiculous thing. So, we're gonna sue them over that, over defamation. Literally, it's not even about censorship; it's about defamation at that point. So, just so many. I mean, at this point, we're basically considering even representing people, even who are not attached to Project Veritas. People who have been defamed by the media. We're going to represent them in court too. We're just going to create a people's defamation fund and just sue everybody.
Yeah,
That's
I'm just curious to know why nobody has seen old videos back, even in the election, that you guys were already uh, exposing CNN back in November with a lot of not showing Hunter Biden news or things like that.
yeah. We
And
we
that is what they claim that manipulate the votes too.
they that for sure. The Hunter Biden story was from the New York Post, and it was crazy how much they censored that, and they had no reason to do it. Yeah, obviously, big tech censored it. The media, like CNN, New York Times, covered it up. So that was another big piece of evidence of corruption and the system at play, the machine at play. But yeah, we've exposed CNN many times. This is the first time we've
You
exposed them.
guys are helping. justice be
Yeah.
achieved at least a little bit with fraud in elections and fraud the elections in the United States suffering some frauds that might not be widespread but and not enough to change the results, but then later the numbers were much bigger than what was delivered by mainstream media. And what I'm always curious is why we don't see those news on the mainstream media.
So they're partisan. They don't want to. The thing. They say at first, oh, there's no voter fraud, and then when you show that there's voter fraud, oh yeah, there's voter fraud, but not enough voter fraud to change anything. So they always, and then my question, and the question we have to them is, do you realize that the reason why you say there's no voter fraud is because you don't actually investigate if there's voter fraud? You don't. How much voter fraud do you think we would know about if the New York Times, CNN, and Washington Post sent out 30 reporters each to find voter fraud? I'm pretty sure we could find a lot. It's because you can't say there's no voter fraud when you don't send anyone to investigate it. It's
Yeah.
the same thing as you go to South
And
Side.
considering one thing that is important, because I think that was misunderstood by a lot of people in the United States and outside of the United States too, is that the evidence that were presented were dismissed without being verified. And not that they were not good enough. And this is one of the things I talked to Robert Barnes here in my channel. And I'm going to be honest with you. I believe that interview, extensively speaking of a supposed fraud in the elections, was what kind of almost terminated my channel.
Yeah.
I'm over a year stuck in 1,000 subs. So I
Well,
believe cancel culture is real,
it is.
and we need to fight that. Speaking a little bit more of it, the everybody knows or suspects that the clickbaits, no, they use a lot of the clickbaiting, and you guys exposed. There is the video of the technical director saying fear sells, if
Yeah.
it bleeds it leads. So it's almost almost tell me a little bit about those videos before we finish. I'm already over your time.
Yeah.
How do people have access to those videos full extension, or is that all cut it and edited and that's why they think you guys could be manipulating
There's
data?
no.
How does it work?
They've never proved a single deceptive edit ever. We don't. There's nothing of that sort. The what Charlie and others say in our videos are clear. There, there's no way that what the video is made that doesn't show the full context of what he's saying. CNN didn't argue that happened. No one ever argues for a specific example of deceptive. They just say, "Oh, there's deceptive editing," but we say where, and they're like, "Oh no, you just deceptively edited," and we're saying what? And they don't know which one to point to because there isn't any. They just make the full blown broad accusation without specifying anything. So you can find our videos on our website on our YouTube page. We've exposed CNN many times. Like this is probably the seventh or eighth time in the last 3 years we've exposed CNN for several things. No one's ever pointed out to us any deceptive edit in our history. They've never done it. They just make things up. So you can see it for yourself. I mean, if you watch the videos and you think that there's anything taken out of context, point it out because I will guarantee you won't be able to do so.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mario, for your time and attention. Just letting people know that Mario put himself available right now because James is super busy suing a lot of people, and that's why we could not talk. I hope one day we can have him showing the alpaca and the wall of shame. Yes. Thank you very much. Please let people know how they can support Project Veritas and be part of the movement.
Absolutely. So you can definitely come to our website. If you want to donate, you can donate there. I know you're in Canada and a lot of your viewers are in Canada, but we're happy to receive information and tips from people. If you work in big tech, if you work in media, if you work in government, you can go to our website to submit a tip. You can email us at veritastips@protonmail.com. We also have Signal. We have Telegram that you can message us. It's 914-653-3110. So there's many ways you can reach out. You can donate. You can, give us information. And
Here
there was always
in Canada, there is more corruption to be exposed than in the United States.
there's always corruption, so we're always happy to hear from everybody, and there's always going to be someone who will respond to you if you reach out. So
Here definitely is even clear that the government gives money to the big techs because the propaganda is so perfect. It's almost annoying to watch it.
I believe you. I believe it.
Thank you very much. Guys, go check Project Veritas and keep up on exposing the big tech and all these matrix that we're living in. I'll stop the recording now and you guys see you next video.